To the kingdom of Israel!
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Lay not for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
11. It says, "Thou wilt show me the path of life." So we're on the path of life. The path of paradise, the path of life leads to glory, which the glory is the kingdom of heaven. And we're on that path of life. We're walking on the path of the tree of life to gain eternal life.
Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, they not. And yet I say unto you that Solomon in all his glory was not these. It then God so clothed the grass, which is today in the field, and tomorrow is cast into the oven. And seek not ye what ye shall drink, neither be ye of doubtful mind. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. But rather seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
To eternal peace and joy.
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to our younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who may have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shah. And what I want to get into this morning, all right, morning news and prophecy, the big American Psyop, which we know, all right, dealing with a Psyop, okay, dealing with it's a matter of fact, let's just get the definition real quick for Psyop. We go into it often, but it's good to revisit particular things. Stay sharp. All right, so when you go into a Psyop, which this will be a tactic of the devil, as we know, all right, Esau Edom, all right, he's Satan, all right, he's the physical okay embodiment of Satan. He's possessed by the spiritual demon Satan. Okay, he's the devil that the Bible speaks of. He's the crafty that the Bible speaks of. Okay, and he draws his energy from Satan, which is to be adverse against righteousness, man. And he goes about it in a very crafty way. Okay, so one of his tools is deception. One of his main tools that he used to run the earth to deceive the people, okay, to bring about his wicked agenda, all right, is deception, and he's crafty with it. Okay, now when you go into the word psyop, all right, psyop is an abbreviation for a psychological operation, a planned military or government tactic designed to influence the emotions, motives, objectives, okay, objective, the reasoning and behavior of foreign governments, organizations, or individuals. And see, what you American people have to understand, that your American government, all right, is a hostile entity towards the American people. Everything that the American government does, all right, because it's ran, okay, by the elite banking families. Okay, so everything that the American government is built to do, okay, is built to influence, okay, the behavior, you see, and the culture of the American society. You see, so the American government has been hostile with the American people for a long time. You see, but they run under the banner, of being for the American people. Liberty, justice, prosperity, equality to all men, and these so-called movements. It's all about equality, civil rights, all right, the feminist movement. And that's why when you go into the 60s, man, that was a heavy era of psyops, man. From the 60s until now, psychological operations have been off the charts. Okay, beginning with the feminist movement, all right, the civil rights movement, okay, going into the 70s, okay, where you had the black exploitation, okay, and then in the 80s you have the chemical warfare with the crack, okay, and then you have more psychological warfare, all right, with the music going into the 90s, the gangster rap, okay, was went into trap music and eventually drill music, and now it's just satanic. You look at you go back to, all right, NWA concert, all right, and then you fast forward to an NBA YoungBoy concert and look how much satanic it has gotten. But the foundation of it goes back, to the gangster rap when you go into the music. You see, so this devil's been planning this a long time. All right, this psyop, America has been one big psyop, leading people to this new world order. Okay, leading people to be divided, leading, the destruction of the family, the destruction of, the community. Okay, all these things were done intentional, and it was based in psychological operation. I got a video that's going to go into it. It says a psyop is an abbreviation for psychological operation, a planned military or government tactic designed to influence the emotions, the motives, the objective reasoning, and behavior of foreign governments, organizations, or individuals. It is a form of psychological warfare used to manipulate perceptions to support specific objectives, man. And that's a very broad subject, man. There's so much we can get into, all right, but we're going to go to the precepts and expound, all right, expound on, how the scriptures describe how this man will rule the earth. Okay, so when you go into Revelation 20:7, all right, it says, Revelation 20:7 says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. Okay, now remember, this is not the physical, this is not the actual, you know, spiritual demon Satan. Okay, that's loosed out of this, big hole, big gigantic hole. No, this is Esau. Okay, Esau is the nationality that represents Satan in the earth, man. Just as on the right hand side we represent Yahweh Bashim Shai. All right, the hopeful elect. Well, Esau is a nation; they represent Satan in the earth, man. Okay, and loosed out of his prison is going, okay, to this devil, being loosed out, of because he was sealed off to where he couldn't come into power. Okay, the Lord didn't allow this devil to have any influence in the earth for 1,000 years. He was sealed off. All right, and you go into that region of Georgia, all right, Russia today, close over to the Ukraine area. Okay, you go into the Caucasus Mountains in that region. That's where the devil was pushed off pretty much to the corner of society, man. Because society still functioned under what they call the Dark Ages when Jake was ruling in Europe, Jake was ruling in Russia. Okay, so you had society functioning while this devil was off to the side. But the Lord allowed this man to come back in power during the time of the Renaissance. Okay, he was loose. Okay, from their prison, their spiritual prison, to where he couldn't rule, he couldn't have influence in the earth, man. Okay, it says, "And shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth." Okay, so when he will come back into power, well, the foundation of his rulership, the first thing he will begin to do is deceive. Okay, and what did he do? He came under the banner of a Christian, with the Bible in his hand. That was one of the main deceptions, man. Painting himself as the Most High, okay, as the Messiah, okay, as the angels, as the prophets, okay. Because when he went in to begin to conquer the earth, he had the Bible in hand, and that's one of his main deceptions, man. Is that what he was doing, okay, was righteous and legitimate, okay, and that he was doing the will of the Lord, his, and then the way he framed Christianity, it was always based in Edomite superiority, man. As if God, was with everything he was doing, which the Lord allowed him, okay, to do these things. But see, the Lord is going to punish him for these things as well. You see? But going back to the point, his main thing when he came back into power was deception. Okay? Because he's making it seem as if he's doing the will of the Lord on the right-hand side. Okay? Well, ultimately, he's doing the bidding of Satan on the left-hand side, man. Okay? It said Gog and Magog, which is Russia, to gather them to battle, the number of whom is the sand of the sea. So his deception will lead to a war, okay, with Russia. You see, because the government that runs the world is this Western beast system. All right, this beast system of the West, headed by America, man. Russia has kind of been the black sheep, okay, which Russia's down with the New World Order play. You see, but they've always been a black sheep to these Western governments, man. Okay, and eventually they're going to go head up in the war, just going to end this man's rulership. Okay, but the main point is that this devil, which just goes back to the garden, he will come back into power to deceive. Okay, when you go to Genesis 3:1, it said, "Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord power had made. And he said to the woman, yeah, had the Most High said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden." So this man's, okay, this was psychological warfare. Okay, there was a Psyop that the serpent came, all right, against Eve, man. You see, because he came asking questions that he knew the answer to. You see, and he created a narrative that he was able to manipulate and to get Eve to go off. Okay, but when you go into this word serpent, and that's what the devil is, the master creating, these narratives that he's able to manipulate. Okay, but you go into this word serpent, we always get into it. You go into the root word, in the Hebrew, which is Nakash, okay, which goes into what? It says to practice divination, divine, observe sign, to learn by experience, okay, practice fortune telling, to take as an omen, okay, enchantment, you go down, says an enchanter, enchantment, okay, a whisper, a magic spell, you see, and this is what this devil runs the earth with, okay, with enchantments. You see, most people on the planet Earth are enchanted, especially here in America, man. You know, because these devils just had a free run over here in America, man. The elites, were able to do what they want to the Americans, all right, society, man. Okay, and that's why we see America, all right, is the worst when it comes to being enchanted. There's nowhere on earth that's more enchanted than America, man. You see, it's a land of delusion. Okay, so let's go. Let's go. Oh yeah, let's get this word here. Say he was subtile. Let's get this word subtile, and then all right, subtile, which that's in the Hebrew, which is all right, arahum, all right, or aram in the Hebrew, which means subtile, shrewd, crafty, sly, okay, cunning. You see, these that's why he was likened to a serpent, okay, because a serpent, was patient, okay, is always waiting for the moment to strike. It blends in, you never know it's there until you hit by it. Okay, and that's how the devil has been operating in the shadows, man. Okay, by the time you realize what has happened, you already hit. You see, the thing that he's, his agenda has already taken effect. By the time you realize it's already in effect, man. Okay, by the time Drake realized that the CIA was bringing the drugs in, well, Drake was already devastated. The family was already through. The snake had already bit. Okay, by the time the woman figured out that feminism, okay, was against them, see, they was already through. See, 3, 4 generations, 5 generations is gone. By the time they realize, you're like, damn, this ain't it. Well, shit, the snake already done hit. And that's the that's the style of a serpent. Camouflage, all right, patient, and they hit you. And then after a while, that's when their poison, begin to settle in. You see? So let's go here. Let's go from there and see what we see happening today. Let's go here. It's 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 3. Okay. It said, but if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. Because the Lord has awakened us up to this gospel in these latter days. That's a part of being in the light, coming to this gospel, man. This good news. Okay? Because now, as we've been brought into this gospel, man, we know that this man has an end. Okay? We know that the Lord is going to intervene. The Lord set this man up for a moment in time. All right? We understand that he was set up for our punishment, and he was set up to show us, what wickedness looks like unchecked. Okay? With what made us appreciate righteousness, man. So this devil, he served a purpose on the left-hand side for the Lord. Because the Lord has a righteous end game to all this, man. Okay? So we look at this guy and we see how he moved. Well, we understand why. And see, as we try to tell our people the good news, okay, they can't receive it because the Lord has given them over to the power of darkness, man. Okay? So the Lord, if it's not ordained for you to ever awake out that power of darkness, man, you're going to stay lost. Verse 4 says, in whom the power, okay, the God of this world, Esau, okay, have blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel who is the image of the Most High, should shine unto them, man. So this devil really put in work, you know, to keep people enchanted. And it's 2/3 of our people, you know, that they're just completely blinded by this, man. Even those that think they're woke, think they own to something, they're still blinded by this devil, because there's so many layers of deception that this man, you know, has been laying out, you know, over the decades, man. Okay. So our people that believe not, well, it tells us they believe not because of the gods of this world. Esau, even the rulers of this age, okay, have them blinded. And the Most High is why I say least the light of the glorious gospel of Mashiach. So unless the Lord allows the light of the gospel to break up the darkness, man, our people stay in the dark, and there's nothing we can do. You know, there's nothing that can be done for someone who the Lord doesn't want to wake up, man. Okay? Who is the image of the Most High should shine unto them. Okay, so unless the Lord break up their darkness with the light of the gospel, the understanding of the scriptures, there's nothing that we can do, man. All right, and this video goes into it, how it's been the build up. Now, this is an old, make sure I put the this guy here. He used to be ex-KJB, all right, and the KJB is like the Russian version of the CIA. Okay, so he defected to Canada, you know, and he pretty much went on a campaign to tell all right, and eventually, you know, they put him to death, you know. After a while, they put him to death, but he went on this campaign, and he went into all the tactics and the psychological warfare of Secret Service, which all of them do with the MI6. Okay, whoever has a Secret Service, they play a part in propaganda, okay, for the masses, man, in psychological warfare for the masses, man. You know, in Russia, the EU nations, America, okay, a lot of these nations use, all right, their secret forces. I mean, their intelligence, okay, force, okay, to push propaganda for mind control of the masses, man. Okay, so let's play this.
It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. Actually, it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. Exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts will nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, he will refuse to believe it. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black. You still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior.
This was Yuri Bezmenov.
He detailed for the moral decay.
Former KGB propaganda operative, and in 1970 he defected to Canada, carrying with him everything he knew about how the Soviet Union was quietly destroying the West from the inside.
The espionage as such occupies only 10 to 15% of money, time, and manpower. 15% of the activity of KGB. The rest, 85%, is always subversion. And unlike a dictionary of English, Oxford Dictionary, subversion in Soviet terminology means always a destructive, aggressive activity aimed to destroy the country, nation, or geographical area of your enemy.
After the KGB was officially dissolved, Yuri was found dead at only 53. The official cause, according to the Windsor Star, was a heart attack. Wikipedia lists the cause of death as unknown. Yes, heart attacks happen, especially to those people who know too much.
So we have religion, we have education, we have social life, we have power structure. These are the areas of application of subversion.
On top of all these areas where subversion was applied, today there's something Besmanov never account for. Are formed any. One of the most powerful techniques used in this space is tribal reinforcement. When you scroll through your feed,
So real quick, just want to make the point because he said whenever he said it takes 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Now when he's talking about the KGB is doing this to America, it's ultimately the CIA, all right, they're doing this to America, you know, because that's the intelligence agency, okay, of America, you know, the KGB, you know, they're doing this to the Russians, you know, like I said, all these different nations, you know, most of them have, you know, central intelligence. All right, they're formed by the CIA, you know, where they do these things to the masses, man. All right, to keep people in check, to keep people confused, keep people compliant. Okay, and ultimately they just been herding people to this new world order for a long time. All right, the shadow governments of the elites that run these governments, right, throughout the earth. Now, when you what he said it takes 15 to 20 years to demoralize, okay, a state, okay. So within one generation, okay, you see a lot of things, you know, that have become degenerate. And you look at it in America, it's been on a rapid way. All right, like I said, when you go to the 90s, all right, until now, and look how degenerate our people have become. You know, I say you could really go back to the 60s, but each 15 to 20 year cycle, you just see a major jump in how degenerate, okay, society has gotten. Okay, and it's amplified amongst Jake because Jake is the main target. Okay. And he said no matter how much truth you show someone that's immoral, they can't accept it. Well, the scriptures go into that. Okay. Proverbs 28:2, it says, when there is moral rot within a nation, its government topples easily. Okay. And these devils know this. If they can create immorality within a nation, okay, it's easy to get compliance. It's easy to subvert and twist the truth and create narratives in a society that's immoral. Okay, it says when there is moral rot within a nation, its government topples easily, but wise and knowledgeable leaders bring stability, man. And this is what the Lord is doing amongst the elect. He's raising up okay? He's raising up wise and knowledgeable leaders that's bringing stability, okay? And that's why, you know, the elect are going to be unmovable in these times, because through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, the Lord has been stabilizing us with truth, man. You see, and also having morals, okay? Righteousness, you know, living in righteousness, that's going to play a factor of us being stable, man. Having integrity, okay? Having honor, you see? In these times, man, that's going to play a part as well. Okay, but you look at this society with no morals, man. These people are going to tear each other head off, man. Okay, they're going to tear each other head off because it's a nation with no morals. Okay, well, the scriptures say that, you know, whenever a place, all right, has moral rot, it topples easily, man. You know, that's why America is for the taking. You see, these Western nations, you know, it says, this Wisdom of Solomon 1:4, it says, for into a malicious soul, wisdom will not enter, nor dwell in a body that is subject to sin. Okay? So the thing he said, like, the first stage is to demoralize a state, you know, to ease in, okay, lewdness, to ease in wickedness, to ease in sin, to make sin funny. Put somebody in a dress and make people laugh at them. Put a man in a dress and make it comedy. okay, to put, all right, women in less and less clothes performing, okay, then ease in, this and then ease in and ease that in. And now you have a society that's completely immoral, okay? And someone that's, immoral and corrupted like that, wisdom can't enter into that, man. The Lord not dealing with that. That's why the first thing we have to do when we come to the truth is begin to repent. We have to immediately change our behavior before the Lord really starts to deal. The Lord requires us to make, drastic changes, coming into the truth, man. That's why people look at us like we did something radical, because the Lord requires that drastic change before we come into this, because we have been corrupted and defiled in darkness, man. So that's why it's that drastic. When we come into the truth, man, the Lord put a zeal on us, man. Okay, to really make those drastic changes, man. Then it's a constant build up into righteousness, man. Putting off that old man, putting off that old way of thinking, man, and constantly being renewed in righteousness, man. You see? So, yeah, let's let this play a little more. Oh yeah, I'm gonna put this in the comments as well. Hold on, go back.
Life, we have power structure, we have labor relations, unions, and finally we have law and order. These are the areas of application of subversion.
On top of all these areas where subversion was applied, today there's something Bezmenov never had to account for, that any other space has a name: tribal reinforcement. When you scroll through your feed and see an opinion with 50,000 likes, your brain doesn't process that as information, but as a social signal that the tribe has already spoken, and that this must be true. Are you even noticing it happened?
The workers lose, even if they have 10% increase of their salaries. They cannot catch up due to inflation and due to missed time made to believe by media. But hurry up, rush and save, save, save. There is a pantyhose sale. Save by buying more.
Black Friday used to be one day a year. Now it's Black Friday, Black Monday, Black Week, early access, flash sale, limited time, last chance. It never ends. And every year, people line up, go into debt, buy things they didn't know they needed 2 hours before. Your salary didn't grow enough to keep up with rent, with groceries, with gas. The Suez Canal, blocked for 6 days in 2021 by a single ship. One ship. Global shipping costs exploded overnight. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow passage through which 20% of the world's oil travels every single day. As you already know, earlier this year, it was effectively closed, and within days, fuel prices spiked across the entire planet. And here's what nobody mentions. There are countries that don't import a single barrel through that strait. They have their own sources, and their fuel got more expensive anyway. Because oil isn't priced by where you get it from, it's priced by what someone decides it's worth. Ukraine's grain fields, responsible for feeding hundreds of millions of people. The moment the war started, wheat prices hit a 14-year high. Every single time, something happens somewhere, and somehow everyone pays everywhere. A BlackRock recruiter was caught on camera saying it out loud. Bezmenov talked about advertising agencies over 40 years ago. He said the whole system is designed to make you feel like you need more. Always more. And now you're standing in a line at 3 a.m. for a discount on something you'll replace next year. Nobody forced you. The system just made it feel normal.
Sometimes when I describe all the methods, students ask me question, are you sure this is the result of the Soviet influence? Not necessarily. You see, the tactic of subversion about which I'm talking is similar to the martial art, the Japanese martial art. If some of you are familiar with that tactic, probably you will remember that if an enemy is bigger and heavier than yourself, it would be very painful to resist his direct strike. If a heavier person wants to strike me in the face, it would be very naive and counterproductive to stop his blow. The Chinese and Japanese judo art tells us what to do. First to avoid the strike, then to grab the fist and continue his movement in the direction where it was before, until the enemy crashes in the wall.
Yuri says that every society already has cracks in it. Criminals, people who hate their own government, people who disagree with everything on principle, idealists who want to burn the whole system down. And somewhere in the mix, small groups with foreign loyalties, bought, recruited, waiting. Every country has all of these people, always. The question is what happens when someone decides to use them? Because here's what Yuri described. You take all those separate movements, all that anger, all that frustration, all those people already pushing against the system, and you find a way to point them in the same direction, all at once. You don't create the anger, it's already there. You just organize it, amplify it, and then step back. Like you said earlier about Japanese martial arts, if someone bigger than you throws a punch, the worst thing you can do is try to block it. You grab the fist, you use the momentum, and you guide it straight into the wall. The enemy defeats himself, and you never had to fight. And where does this happen? Yuri was very specific. Religion, education, social life, power structure, labor relations, law and order. 6 areas. These are the places where a society decides what it believes, who it trusts.
What it means exactly, in case of religion, destroy it, ridicule it, replace it with various cults which bring people's attention, faith, whether it is naive, primitive, doesn't really matter. As long as the basically accepted religious dogma is being slowly eroded and taken away from the supreme purpose of religion, to keep people accepted, respected religious organizations with fake organizations, distract people attention from the real faith and attract them to various different faiths. Education, distract them from learning something which is constructive, pragmatic, efficient. Instead of mathematics, physics, foreign languages, chemistry, teach them history of urban warfare, natural food, home economy, your sexuality, anything, as long as it takes you away, social life. Replace traditionally established institutions and organizations with fake organizations. Take away the initiative from people, take away the responsibility from naturally established links between individuals, group of individuals, and society at large, and replace them with artificially, bureaucratically controlled bodies. Instead of social life and friendship between neighbors, establish social workers institutions. People who are on payroll of whom? Society? No, bureaucracy. The main concern of social workers is not your family, not you, not social relations between groups of people. The main concern is to get the paycheck from the government. What will be the result of their social work doesn't really matter. They can develop all kind of concepts to show to the government and to the people that they're useful.
2 decades ago, 42% of Americans attended church regularly. Today, that number is 30%, and it's still going down. At the same time, the global astrology market alone is worth over $14 billion. The broader wellness industry, crystals, tarot, alternative spirituality, is valued at $1.5 trillion globally, growing every year. In schools, the conversation has shifted. Subjects that were once considered essential have been quietly replaced by others. And then there's the social fabric. Think about your street. Do you know the people who live next to you? Their names? Their kids? A few decades ago, that was normal. People looked out for each other. Problems were solved between neighbors, between families, within communities. Today, that's been replaced by something else entirely. There's an organization for everything now. An NGO, a foundation, a funded program, a hotline, a support group, an awareness campaign. Someone else handles it. Someone on payroll, someone who files reports and applies for grants and attends conferences about the problem they were hired to manage. And the more of these organizations that appear, the more divided people seem to become. Neighbor against neighbor, generation against generation, every group with its own grievance, its own language, its own sense of being wronged by everyone else. Bezmenov called it replacing natural human bonds with artificial bureaucratic structures.
And that's part of this new world order control system. You know, all these, because the NGO is a non-government organization, supposedly. Okay, so what these devils do, you know, they began to play the middleman between the disagreements of society that they created, and they have society divided up in so many parts, just so many factions in society. Even the way that they do the generations, they got the baby boomers, the millennials, the Gen Z, the Gen X, I think what is the Gen Alpha now or whatever. Even that's all for divide. Okay. Like why are you dividing the generations? You see? So you got the boomers complaining about the millennials complaining about Gen X, Alpha complaining about everybody, whatever, man. So they created all this division, for the sake of control. Okay. And then they step in and get to play, all right, peacemakers, and they do this over and over and over again, man. Till people become dependent, all right, the government for everything, man, to solve every situation, the economy, to feed them, to house them, to protect them. They depend on the government. People have outsourced everything their whole life to the government. Okay. And it's been a what you call it, gradual process, man. Okay. That's why people, when any small things happen, they immediately, okay, expect the government, okay, to make something happen, man. You see? So let's keep playing and then we're gonna jump a little bit as well.
Else. Bezmenov called it replacing natural human bonds with artificial bureaucratic structures. In 1984, that sounded like a theory. Today, it has a budget and a logo.
Power structure. The natural bodies of administration, which are traditionally either elected by people at large or appointed by elected leaders of society, are being actively substituted by artificial bodies, the bodies of people, groups of people whom nobody elected, never. As a matter of fact, most of the people don't like them at all, and yet they exist. One of such group is media. Who elected them? How come they have so much power? Almost monopolistic power on your mind. They can rape your mind. But who elected them? How come they have a nerve to decide what is good and what is bad for the elected by you, president, and his administration? Who the hell are they? Power structure slowly is eroded by the bodies and groups of people who do not have neither qualification nor the will of people to keep them in power, and yet they do have power.
Think about who actually shapes public opinion today. It's a handful of media companies, a few social media platforms, algorithms built by people you've never heard of. And yet they decide what trends, what gets seen, what disappears quietly. In 2024, 6 corporations control roughly 90% of what Americans read, watch, and hear. Bezmenov was talking about Soviet-era manipulation, state-controlled messaging dressed up as journalism. Look at what replaced it. At least with state media, people knew it was propaganda. Today, most people genuinely believe they're forming their own opinions.
Yeah, so, there is no coincidence that it's 6, major corporations that control all the information. All right. There's no coincidence there. Now, most people, everything that
You don't know what an AI work management platform is? Okay, let me tell you. Here's 3 new AI-powered changes.
Who just bumped their car.
All right, and most people believe that their opinions are their own opinions. No, it's repetition through this media that has formed a lot of the opinions, man. Even what, like that commercial, the AI commercial. Most people think AI, okay, is on the God status based on the constant advertising. Okay, these Elon Musk always speaking about it, talking about we're summoning up the demon, and you got Noah Yuval Harari said humans gonna be irrelevant after a while because of AI. So when people think of AI, they think of this godlike technology that has limitless potential. Okay, and that's an opinion that was forced on you through what? Constant consumption of media. And they put that everywhere. Every YouTube commercial is almost AI. Almost every YouTube commercial, 90% of all YouTube commercial is AI, promoting AI, marketing AI. Okay. So a lot of people in their mind, they're really looking at this AI as this limitless God-like intelligence that Esau Edom has created. All right, out of scratch, man. You know, when it's a lie, it's a lying wonder. You know, so it can do things, but it's not limitless, man. Come on, man. Okay, that shit limited as hell, is overrated, is hype. You know, that's been coming out as of late. Okay, but most people and everything that they believe has been formulated to them through media, man. Media is a major part of the devil's witchcraft, man. His enchantment. You know, people's opinion are formed through, all right, media. Their belief system is formed through media, man. You know, even them thinking that they're woke. All right, all that comes from media. Okay, so let's play this. You know, this whole gender war between man and woman. Well, these things was amplified when you had all these podcasts. Okay, of men and women going against each other. That really amplified this gender war that we see playing out, especially over here in the West, over here in America, man. So let's play a few more minutes of this, and I got one more clip I want to play.
In a parking lot. How long until someone gets angry? And how long until someone starts shouting? At work, wages are just the surface. The real story is it's A versus Angle. A bad review on Google starts it. A complaint in a neighborhood group fuels it. On social media, the loudest voice wins. The smartest one gets ignored. The fairest one gets no attention. The angriest one gets all the likes.
Crisis is when society cannot function any more productively. It collapses, obviously. That's the word for crisis. So therefore, the population at large is looking for a savior. The workers say, we have family to feed. Let's have a strong government, maybe socialist government, centralized. When somebody put the employers on their place and let us work. We are sick and tired of going to strike and missing time and all that. We need some strong man, strong government, a leader, a savior is needed. Population is sick and tired already. And here we are. We have a savior. Either a foreign nation comes in, or the local group of leftists, Marxists, no matter what they call themselves, Sandinista, a reverend or some sort, a savior comes and says, I will lead you. So we have two alternatives here, civil war and invasion. See how it goes? Civil war, we know what it is. Lebanon is the best example. The civil war, which was artificially implanted in Lebanon by injection of force of PLO, Palestinian Organization. Invasion we have in many other countries like Afghanistan, and name any East European country, it was invaded by the Soviet army.
When people are exhausted, they stop asking questions. They just want someone to fix it. And that's the moment Bezmenov described as the most dangerous one, because whoever arrives with the right message at the right time gets everything. Look at the last decade across the Western world. Trust in traditional institutions has collapsed. Trust in media, in governments, in banks, in churches, all at historic lows according to the Edelman Trust Barometer, which has tracked this globally for over 20 years. And into that vacuum, new figures appear, movements appear, leaders appear, each one promising to be the answer.
The next stage.
So what we've seen in America, you know, they've intentionally, you know, they sabotage, you know, the different leaders. Because you look at people like Biden, you know, because what was the result of Biden? You know, he was incompetent. You know, they had him playing this incompetent character. Okay, falling all over the goddamn place. Okay, can't remember, you know, what he just said, slurring, and okay, with that dumb look. Okay, and then you have what? All right, this strong, capable, you know, heroic figure in Trump. Okay, and people rallied around Trump. And what did Trump do? All right, he ran it to the ground. So now it's like, well, okay, the Democrats are trash, the Republicans are trash. So now this paves the way for a new system, a whole new system to come in and say, look, we're going to fix all this. Okay. But before that, they got to bring crisis, man. You see, they're pushing it to where people are going to be okay were doing away with the left and the right, the Dems and the Republicans, for something new, something better. Okay? So these crises is going to pave the way for a new system to come in and replace, all right, this old system that has let people down continually on both sides, man. The Democrats and Republicans, man. Okay, so it's heavy psychological warfare that this devil, is playing on the masses, man. You see, heavy psychological warfare, man. You see, and if the Lord, that's why even matter of fact, let's go here real quick. Uh, let's go here in the book of Second Corinthians. So 2 Corinthians 4 and no, 2 Corinthians 10. Okay, so you get 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4. All right. The 2 Corinthians 10 and 4 says, we use the Most High's mighty weapons, not worldly weapons, to knock down the strongholds of human reasoning and to destroy false arguments. Okay? So we have the weapons of Yahweh Bashem Al Shah, through the Holy Spirit. Okay? As the Lord has enlightened us in righteousness, man. See, we've been enlightened. All right, we've been illuminated on the right hand side. Okay, to where we can see the flaw and the error, okay, within this dark world. You see, we can see the flaw and the error in Esau, man. First off, we know who he is. Okay, and by default, just because of what he is, we know he's off, man. We know not to believe or trust anything that this nigga is on, man. Okay? So through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Al Shah, we're able, through the teaching of this word, is destroying the false arguments of Esau, man, for the elect. See, the elect, okay, as this word is being taught, the hopeful elect, they're able to see the false arguments. The false arguments of Esau, Edom, are destroyed in the minds of the elect as we hear this word. When we heard this word began to tear down all the false arguments and false teachings and beliefs, okay, that we believe. The things that cultivated us in the darkness, man. Well, this truth begins to destroy those things and tear these things down in our minds, which makes room for what? The light. You see? So unless, the Lord allows, that to happen, our people stay in the darkness, man. Okay? So you have a lot of our people, they're getting ready to choose Satan. You see? Because the option is going to be, to see him or trust in the Lord. And a lot of our people, they're getting ready to choose their see him to trust in Satan, man. Because those imaginations were never cast down. You see, that wicked belief system, that wicked understanding of darkness was never cast down in them. Okay? So when you go to verse 5, it says, we destroy every proud obstacle that keeps people from knowing the Most High. Okay? And Esau, Edom is that obstacle, man. You see? His enchantments, are major obstacles that keep 2/3 of our people from knowing the Most High. The gods of this world have blinded the minds of them that believe not. Okay? So this man has set up these enchantments, which are obstacles that keep, all right, the masses of Israelites, all right, from knowing the Most High. It says we capture their rebellious thoughts and teach them to obey of Psyop. And this is the process that the elect, the hopeful elect, Lord will of that number, okay? Because we was in rebellion at once. All right, we didn't know we was in rebellion. A lot of us came up in Christianity, thought we was in good standards, thought we was on point, but we was in the pure rebellion, man. But through the spirit, the ministry of the prophets, through the spirit and power, Yahweh Shema Shai, you know, these strongholds are being torn down, which is freeing the minds of the hopeful elect, man. Okay? But a lot of our people, they're still in the blender. You see, they're gonna get caught up in it. So when you go to let's go here, because these devils, they're ready to roll this system out. You know, they've been prepping the minds of the masses for a long time, and now they're ready to roll out this system, man. Okay, I'm gonna put this on here too. I still gotta only watch a little bit of this, you know, but more than likely some more good info on. I gotta watch the rest of it. But let's go ahead and copy and paste it. But yeah, these devils, they're ready to roll out this new system, man. Okay, they've been prepping the minds of the people, you know, for a while. Okay, and now it's just to the point that they need a crisis. Okay, which is gonna make people distrust, you know, this system more, you know, and look for some type of solution, some type of answer, which they already got there with the Psyop, man. Okay, so let's play this. Play a few minutes of this.
They were just essentially considering foreign policy, so they were looking at how.
And then Bible Shah, for brother, can post the book of Lamentations, chapter 3, verse 24 through 26. Bible Shah.
Foreign policy was of the corporate lobby at the time. So, and this was US foreign policy, but we see exactly the same everywhere else in the world where we look. You know, and going back to the idea that public-private partnership is very much driving policy agendas everywhere. And I mean, a classic example of that is if we look at how sustainable development has developed over the years, with the significant input of globalist think tanks, which, let's face it, represent corporate interests, often represent corporate interests, then what we are seeing is a move away, progressively a move away. And you know, in my opinion, the speed of that transition away from what we might call a traditional view of what we might consider to be political government decision making, being driven by political concerns, moving towards what are the pressing concerns of the private sector. I think that's accelerated notably since the 1990s, and now, as you know, as we're saying, Palantir is really representative, I would say, of that system. And one of the really interesting observation that Simon made, actually, and something that I've discussed in my book, is how bold they are now. It's almost as if we don't care anymore. We don't care. The gloves are off now. We are quite. And in a sense, there is an agenda there. But Palantir often talk about, representatives of Palantir often talk about this notion of the agentic state, where government itself is eroded and replaced by private governance of some kind. So I guess at some point up and say, well, we can run things better than government. And maybe I think we're starting to see Palantir move into that role, at least.
Yeah. Well,
at some point, some corporation has to step in and say we can run things better than government. Okay, and like I say, Palantir, all right, has been the infrastructure as far as the software for this new system. You know, this all-seeing, all-knowing, style. Okay, digital surveillance, finance, health, location, you see. So Palantir has been, that so-called all-seeing, all-knowing software, that's come to the forefront as of late. you know, dealing with war, all right, dealing with civil unrest, you know, with the ICE. Okay, it's been Palantir. Okay, so we know Palantir doing the software, you know, the data centers, the cameras, the okay, and eventually the microchip, the RFID microchip, is going to be part of the hardware. Okay, for this new system, man. Okay, so they intentionally have these governments, you know, sabotaging these governments and causing distrust in government. Okay, for people to you know, to create a you know, to create a demand, okay, for a new system. Okay, so it's intentionally meant for people to distrust the left and the right. Okay, which paves the way for a new system, and they got this new system in place. Okay, and everyone that's against it, everyone that's on game with the new system, best believe they're you know, marked. Okay, to be deleted. Okay, because there's going to be people that's willingly down with this, man. Okay, and they're going to set the atmosphere to where, all right, they can just do mass deletions on those who's against it. You see, or cause people, and they're also going to cause people to do the work for them. Okay, by what division? You know, because you know they're going to make it seem as if the people that's against this are holding up the progress, are holding up, you know, the solution. Like we got the solution, where you have those that are not on board, the rebels that are not on board are holding up the solution. Okay, and the prosperity and the utopia for everyone else. Okay, so we coming into these times, man, with this devil, you know, he's gonna pull out all stops, man. Okay, so let's go here. But that's all I want to get from that one. I said I gotta watch some more. See, pretty long. Things like an hour. I think it's an hour and 44 minutes. You know, yep, hour 44 minutes, 38 seconds, man. So let's get these real quick. All right, this the brother Najee MS all in 144. Lamentations 3 and 24 said, "The Lord is my portion, saith my soul. Therefore will I hope in him." You see, and that's gonna be a rare thing, you know, that it's gonna be a remnant of our people, you know, that's gonna hope in our power in the midst of all this, man, because it's gonna get chaotic. Okay, it's gonna get extremely violent. Okay, hey, the earth gonna be a horror house, man. But we understand that it's the Lord that's causing this, the judgment of the Lord going forth, man. Okay, Esau, Edom ain't, you know, the beginning and end of what we're seeing. No, he's a part, okay, of the Lord's agenda. You have to remember, Esau is a part of the Lord's agenda, man. Okay, what Esau is doing, all right, is within the will of the Lord. Okay, so what the Lord is going to allow this devil to do, you know, we have to remember it's all within the will of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. And our hope is in the Lord, man. Okay. Verse 25 it said, "The Lord is good unto them that wait for him, to the soul that seeketh him," man. You see? So it's going to take, you know, faith, patience in these times, man, to wait on our power. A lot of people, hey, they're going to bend the knee. They're going to go the broad way, the easy way, because that's going to look like the easy way to see him. Okay? But now we got to prepare ourselves, you know, to be unmovable in these times and wait on our power. You know, even if it means death, man. Okay? Now you really got to meditate on, you know, like death is better than bending the knee. You know, we got to go into this with that mindset that death is better than bending the knee, man. Lamentation 3 and 26 says, "It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Al Shai," man. Our Lord finna come with a deliverance, man. Yahweh Bashim Al Shai is about to come with a mighty deliverance in the earth, man. You know, and everything that we're seeing is building up to the second coming of Yahweh Shai, man. This is just the you know, these are just, you know, what you call the build-up. All right, everything is a build-up to Yahushua. Every event, the chaos, the war, the crisis, the mandate of the MOTB, all these things build up to Yahushua, you know. So that's the point. Just want to get into that this morning. All right. So Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you few sisters were edified. Once again, I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect Shalom.